You're standing in a root cellar, knee-deep in damp straw, and the air smells like iron and wet stone. Somewhere above you, a slab of pork hangs from a hook. It's been there 3 days. And right now, a war is being fought on its surface. A war you can't see, between you and a few billion things that want to eat your food before you do. For most of human history, that war was the only one that truly mattered. Let's turn the page. Back to a world where cold didn't come from a plug in the wall. You wake before dawn. The hearth is barely warm. Outside, it's late June, and the heat is already pressing against the shutters. In the pantry, you've got salted beef, a crock of sour cabbage, and a wheel of hard cheese wrapped in cloth. That's your safety net. That's what stands between your family and hunger in August, when the garden slows and the last of the spring lamb is long gone. Every one of those foods exists because someone, your mother, your neighbor, your great-grandmother, knew how to cheat decay. Not with a machine, with salt, with smoke, with time and patience and a kind of knowledge that lived in hands, not books. But to grasp why any of it worked, you need to meet the enemy first. Think of warm, raw meat sitting on a table. At body heat, the microbes on its surface double every 20 minutes. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. By the time the sun crosses the sky, that meat is toxic. Even at mild room warmth, the clock just ticks a little slower. A day, maybe 2, before the smell hits you and the surface turns slick. This is the threat that shaped every kitchen, every army camp, every trade route for thousands of years. Cold slows the march. But for most of the past, cold was a luxury. So people found other weapons. Now picture a slab of pork laid out on a stone table. A woman presses coarse crystals into the flesh, handful after handful, working it deep into every fold and crevice. What she's doing looks simple. But beneath the surface, something ruthless is happening. The salt pulls water straight out of the meat cells. It's a one-way door. The water floods out, and the inside of that pork becomes a desert. Too dry, too hostile for anything to grow. The microbes on the surface shrivel. They starve. The meat hardens, darkens, and enters a kind of frozen life. It can last months, all from a white crystal dug out of the earth. And here's what makes salt more than a kitchen trick. It built empires. Roman soldiers didn't just carry swords. They carried salt rations packed alongside their grain. Salt kept their meat edible on long marches through hostile land. It wasn't a spice. It was a weapon of supply. The army that could preserve its food could march farther, fight longer, and hold ground through winter. But salt alone had limits. It changed the taste. It couldn't reach every pocket of moisture. And in wet climates, salted meat could still turn soft and spoil. So people added a second front. Step inside a low timber shed, somewhere along the coast of northern Europe. The walls are dark with soot. Fish hang in rows from wooden racks overhead. Herring, cod, split open and spread flat. Below them, a slow fire of oak and beech chips smolders in a stone trough. There's no flame, just smoke, thick and low, curling up through the bodies of the fish. The heat dries the surface. The smoke itself carries chemicals, compounds from the burning wood that land on the flesh and kill what's living there. Those compounds seep into every crack and pore, forming a thin, bitter shield. A fish treated this way could last weeks at room warmth, even in damp coastal air. And when combined with salt, longer still. Smoking wasn't just science, it was craft. The type of wood mattered. The height of the rack mattered. Too much heat and the fish cooked. Too little smoke and the shield was too thin. Families passed these details down through generations. Not in writing, but in practice. In the way a mother showed a daughter how to read the color of the smoke. Let's turn the page again, because here's where the story takes a strange turn. What if the enemy, those very microbes that spoil your food, could be turned into allies? You're in a farmhouse kitchen, late autumn. A woman shreds cabbage into a wide clay crock, scattering salt between each layer. She packs it down with her fists, pressing until the juice rises. Then she covers it with a cloth and a heavy stone. And she waits. Over the next few days, something begins to happen. The salt draws moisture out of the cabbage. But in that liquid, a different kind of microbe wakes up. These aren't the ones that rot your food. These are the ones that eat sugar and make acid. Slowly, the crock fills with a sharp, sour liquid that makes the whole environment too harsh for anything dangerous to survive. The cabbage, now tangy and soft, will last through winter, sometimes a full year. This is what happens when you recruit biology instead of fighting it. The same basic idea gave us cheese, yogurt, vinegar, and 100 other foods that sit at the heart of cultures around the world. Each one is a tiny factory, staffed by living things too small to see, churning out acids and alcohols that keep decay at bay. But here's where a common myth breaks down. People tend to think mashed and fermented is just one process. It's not. The microbes in sauerkraut are different from the ones in wine. The ones in cheese are different again. Each type needs a specific range of salt, a specific warmth, a specific food source. Get the balance wrong, and instead of saving your food, you get poison. The women and men who manage these crocks and barrels were running complex living systems. They just didn't call it that. Now picture a frozen lake in January. The air is so cold it stings your throat. Men with long saws cut the ice into blocks the size of small tables. Horses drag the blocks to shore, where workers pack them in sawdust and slide them into deep stone-lined pits. The sawdust acts like a blanket. It traps the cold inside the ice and slows the melt to a crawl. Come July, those blocks are still solid. Not perfectly frozen, but cold enough to chill a cellar to near freezing. Cold enough to keep butter firm, milk fresh, and meat safe for weeks longer than salt alone could manage. This wasn't a small operation. By the mid-1800s, the ice trade had grown into a global industry. Ships loaded with frozen blocks sailed from New England lakes to ports in India and the Caribbean. Packed tight in sawdust and straw, the ice survived weeks at sea. It arrived smaller but still useful, a gift of winter delivered to the tropics. You might think ice would melt too fast to matter, but ice houses weren't open fields. They were buried, insulated, built to hold cold the way a battery holds charge. The best ones kept their stores usable through an entire summer. Thousands of these structures stood on estates across northern Europe alone. So now you've got salt, smoke, living microbes, and stored ice. 4 weapons against decay, each one shaped by local climate, local materials, and generations of trial and error. But they also shaped something bigger: power. Salt wasn't free. It came from mines, from coastal pans, from brine wells deep underground. And whoever controlled the supply controlled a choke point. In France, the crown taxed salt so heavily that the revenue made up roughly a third of the entire royal budget. From one mineral, families who couldn't afford it went without preserved food. Some smuggled salt across province lines, risking prison or worse. The anger ran deep, deep enough that when the revolution came, the rage over salt taxes was one of the sparks that lit the fire. Hundreds of local revolts over salt had already erupted before the larger storm broke. Prussia ran a similar game. The state held a tight grip on salt and used the profits to fund its military. In England, towns like Cheshire employed thousands of workers around salt pans, their labor feeding a trade network that stretched from the docks of Liverpool to the colonies. And the ice trade had its own economy. Fortunes rose and fell on the ability to cut, store, and ship frozen water. Entire port cities grew around the ice ships that sailed south each spring. But what happens when a new force enters the picture? One that makes all of this pointless. In the 1880s, steam-driven machines began making ice on demand. No lakes, no winter, no sawdust, just a compressor, a chemical coolant, and a steady supply of fuel. The first models were clumsy and slow, but within a decade, output had jumped sharply. Suddenly, anyone with access to a machine could make cold whenever they wanted. The ice ships slowed. The salt taxes crumbled. France's salt revenue shrank steadily for years. Prussia's salt grip collapsed even faster. Within a few years, the old system was gone. The fridge didn't just cool food. It broke apart trade networks, ruined ice barons, and ended a tax system that had funded kings for centuries. But here's a detail we're sitting with. Not everyone gained equally. Those ancient methods, salt, smoke, fermentation, cellaring, were low-energy answers. They ran on sunlight, wind, winter cold, and human labor. The fridge runs on power grids, supply chains, and fossil fuels. In a world where climate shifts threaten those grids, the old ways aren't just history. They're a backup plan. And yet the old methods had their own costs. Large-scale salt harvesting destroyed coastal wetlands. Entire shorelines were reshaped by drying fields. The landscape paid a price for keeping food fresh, a fact often left out of the warm, rosy view. Every story has a next chapter. If this one gripped you, you'll want to hear how spice roots reshaped the map of the world. It's waiting for you right now. Subscribe and the next page turns itself. You started in that root cellar, staring at a slab of pork in the dark. Now you know, the war on that surface was never small. It built roads, funded kings, launched ships, and fed armies. And it's still being fought every time the power goes out.